All right. Um, we kind of want to get going, so I want to leave lots of opportunity for Coach Brown to
Yeah.
go through his presentation. We've got two great sessions. We missed you last week, Jillian. We missed you. Two great sessions tonight. We have a men's field session on integrating the two-man game with a gentleman who I have a lot of respect for, and I know a lot of people in the industry think is an absolute forward-thinking genius on this exact area. And then in an hour, we have another U20 men's team coach, Daren Fridge, a friend of mine who's done a great job teaching some box lacrosse. You're giving us some box lacrosse for that U13, U11 age for the three phases. So, Coach Brown, you are at Denver, of course. I'm sure you have kind of an interesting year with Coach Tierney announcing that it's his last year. So there's probably a lot of emotions going around at every place you go to because he's been around the game for so long. And as you were just telling us, the gap and competition is so small now that these games must be a little exhausting. So I really appreciate you taking a little bit of time here before you have a crazy April to jump on and share some of your knowledge and understanding with a bunch of Canadian lacrosse coaches who are, here to listen to you and not me. So I'll pass it over to you.
Wow, thanks, Russ, and thanks, Jillian, for hosting these again. I remember a couple of years back during COVID doing one of these, and what a great resource and what a great learning opportunity. I remember watching a bunch of them myself and getting a lot of stuff out of it. And so thanks for setting this thing up. Yeah, the college lacrosse world, as you mentioned, Russ, is a little crazy right now. It seems like everybody's beating everybody. I just had Ohio State and Rutgers on here in the background, and the Buckeyes are looking to bounce back from last weekend. But it's exciting though. I think it's a testament to the growth of the sport. It's a testament to how much talent is out there. And a large part of that, honestly, has to do with Canadians. It has to do with Canadians playing in the NCAA and in the college ranks. So, what I thought I would talk about tonight is, the ever evolving growth of the two-man game in the field setting, and then start to touch on a little bit of the presence of the three-man side, or like us Canadians like to call it, the strong side of the floor, and how that is becoming a more popular, schematic approach to the field game. The pick play has always been a part of field lacrosse, but with the massive increase of the Canadian lacrosse player in the NCAA, starting, I would call it mid 2000s to late 2000s. The game and how the game is played is really starting to change. I think first, when you think back to this, it was, okay, you get in an open set, you get three different pairings, spread them out, and you set a pick and roll for the ball, in pairs type of offense. And it was really effective. It still is effective. Opening up the middle of the field kind of kept the middle open. It gave the on-ball pairing, space to operate. It created lanes for the other two groups of the pairs to cut or seal and slip, off ball. But now it's starting to evolve even more. It's not just a pick game. It's more of a true two-man game. And I think this weekend is probably one of the best, if not the best weekend for sports throughout the course of the whole year. You've got, college hockey, with their tournament starting. You've got college lacrosse in full steam, and then you have the Elite Eight basketball NCAA tournament happening right now. And we talked about parity before, Russ, and but a lot of the stuff that we do in the box game is very similar to what we're seeing on the court. In the basketball game, in the college game. And so it's not just picks now, it's slips, it's mirrors, it's seals, and all of this stuff is really starting to create a problem for opposing team defenses. The big question, from a defensive coordinator will ask himself is, are we going to slide off the picker or the mirror man? And in that there's so much two-man game going on now. When you're scouting an opponent, one of the first questions that I ask myself as an offensive coordinator when I'm looking at the other team is, are they sliding off the picker or the mirror man? And if they are, then we're going to adjust our game plan accordingly. And if they're not, then maybe we're going to go in a different direction. But that would never used to be the case. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, it was more of, is it an crease sliding or is it an adjacent sliding team? Now it's, what are they doing off the two-man? And that is large part to do with how many Canadians are playing in the college ranks. The other thing about the two-man game is it's not just in one area of the field anymore. The two-man game is happening all over the place, and it's happening in all different situations and scenarios in the game. There's things that we like to call spikes, which are transition opportunities where you might have an offensive midi stuck on a defensive midi or a D personnel, and you're looking to get a matchup. I'm going to show you a couple of examples of some pick play behind, and where picks are now not really used as a pick and roll opportunity, but more used as a pick to be an obstacle in trying to get an on-ball defender to navigate around that obstacle. And so it's happening, all over the place. And then the thing that you're seeing as of late, and probably the last, 4 or 5 years is, and I have this saying, 3 is better than 2, is the three-man game. Yeah, and it's really our strong side. It's the stuff that we've been doing and we've been teaching in the box game for forever. It's now starting to come to the field side of things. But just like in box, and we all know this, that when we're coaching a youth box team, and I know Fridge is going to dive into this a little bit later, but we put so much emphasis on the two-man game. The three-man side, the strong side of the floor, sometimes that doesn't get as much attention, and I think that's starting to change now. So what I had planned for tonight is I'm going to go run through some clips, talk about some stuff that we've done with Team Canada. I'm going to show some examples from this past summer in Ireland. I've got unfortunately a couple clips from Israel back in 2018, and then I'm going to show you some stuff that we do at Denver. There's one drill that I'd like to share with you, and it's probably my favorite drill. If I could only do one drill and one drill only to teach how to play lacrosse, this would be it. So I'll share that with you. And then lastly, maybe bust out the whiteboard and go through some different sets and some of the stuff the trends that we're starting to see right now in college lacrosse, and open this thing up to some questions later on. So I'm going to share my screen here. I've got two devices going. So if I'm looking away, I'm just looking at the iPad here.
I'm glad to hear you're going to let us in on some of your secrets, Coach. This is good. We're breaking down barriers.
Well, they may not be mine, but they might be somebody else's. So that's showing up. There we go. Good. So this is what I was talking about before about, picking happening all over the field, not just only in the offensive end. This is a situation where we're running some transition. It's a little hard to see, and I'll try to zoom in here in a second, but Canada's in red, England's in white, and we're bringing the ball down. The ball right now currently is right here. Okay. It's right there with the D midi, and he's got an offensive midi latched onto him. So he's getting into the hole. We're going to throw this ball down to the lefty attackman, who catches the ball. And this is very similar to box. I coach a lot of youth box lacrosse as well, and we want to get the ball down floor. We want to get it deep to the corners. This attackman comes up and he catches the ball in essence on the half boards of the rink. And a couple of things I want you to notice here is watch the route of the picker. The picker comes in and then out. The same skills that we teach in the box. Get to the middle of the floor before you come out, and then try to find a back. And it's the same situation here in the transition game in the field. Picker gets to the middle of the floor, he comes out, and then he tries to find a back. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer here for a second.
Okay, yeah, you want to come?
Watch. Now, here's the pick. Watch the defender, okay? And this defender, and we're going to talk a lot about this. Look at the route that he takes. So we're creating the obstacle. Number 2 in red is creating an obstacle. Now, one of the things that's a little bit different in field than box is there can be no movement. So your feet need to be shoulder width. Your stick needs to be inside your body frame, okay? And there cannot be any type of lean, okay? You'll get away with your feet being a little bit wider than your shoulder width sometimes, but if you lean into it, you're definitely going to get called. But watch which way the D guy goes. So the D guy takes the top side route. He comes over the top. And this is what I call, in this situation, the perfect scenario. If we are setting a pick above GLE, I love seeing the D guy have to get over top of the pick. And why that is because he needs to go around the obstacle, and now he's in a trail position. And so we come down here and we create a 4-on-3 just with a simple little pick in transition. So here's a 3-on-3 down low, down below here. Somebody's got to slide from the base. It's an easy skip for the one more. So a situation example of a pick in transition. I want to show you another situation here with a pick behind in a goal line. I'm going to zoom in again. Location of the pick behind the net is important. I have an area called the release point, and this is right where it is. So it's the back of the goal, right where he's standing. That's the release point right here. Okay. And then I connect the line from the release point to the island, which is about 7 and 7, 6 and 6. The term I use from the release point to the island is the crust. And as offensive players, we want to try to operate in that crust as much as we possibly can. Any tighter than that, then it gets too tight. You don't have any room to exit. You might run into the crease. You're easily to be doubled. But I want you to watch the on-ball D guy in this example. Look at the route that he takes here. So in the past, in the previous example, the on-ball D guy takes the over route. He goes over top of the pick. In this example, the on-ball D guy is going to go under, okay? But because of where the pick is being set right now, he needs to get around the picker, and he also needs to navigate, okay, the goal. And he needs to get back around the goal, which is now, in essence, going to open up, you know, a lane up top because somebody has to slide to the ball. Another example that is used a lot in the college game right now, and the big little game is huge. One of the questions you always ask when you're scouting opponents, do they want to stay with matchups or do they want to switch on matchups? If they want to switch on matchups, well, then maybe you don't get much out of this pick. Maybe you don't get leverage. Maybe you don't get a step on the on-ball defender. But what you do get is you get the matchup that you want. You know, in this scenario, it looks like the English player is tight to the picker. You know, that might be an offensive midi that has gotten stuck back there, okay, on defense. He does not want to switch on this. He does not want to get on the attackman. And so they're trying to stay on their matchups. Okay, another thing that we talk about here in how can we incorporate our box game into field setting? Well, one of the easiest things to do from a box standpoint is talk about off-ball play. You know, I can tell you this, that there is not a lot of emphasis in the US when it comes to field lacrosse about off-ball play. You know, there's a lot of emphasis about dodging. There's a lot of emphasis about shooting. There's a lot of emphasis about throwing skip passes, but there's not a ton of emphasis about off-ball play. And when I think about, you know, Canadian lacrosse players, one of the reasons why, one of the many reasons why we're the best players in the world is because of our off-ball play. And so I want to dive into this set here. Ball is being dodged up at the top right corner of the field. So the ball is right now up here. Okay. He's going to sweep it over the top. And I want you to look at the communication between this D guy right here, who's got a stick up in the air. Okay. And this D guy. There's two D guys there. Okay. This set of players, okay, Canada in white, Australia in green. This guy's paired up with the ball right now. So he's part of the two-man game. He's sitting in a little bit deeper. He's not coming out to set a pick for the ball. He's actually going to sit in there and he's going to become a mere man. But I want you to look at the communication. I said before, you know, are they sliding off the picker or are they sliding off the mere man? That's one of the first questions that we got to ask ourselves. And you can see this communication that the mere man defender is directing this backside crease defender to say, okay, he's pointing at him to say, you're going to be the hot guy. You're going to be the hot guy. You're going to be the slider. And if that happens, then the 2-on-1 now is not on the ball. The 2-on-1 now is off the ball. And the 2-on-1 in this case is going to be right here between 91 and 77. Okay. And watch the motion that they run here. Just a simple little seal and pop. Now, in the box game, this would be a ton of contact. This guy would be jamming his guy in. You know, in the field game, it's the same idea, but you don't need that type of contact because there's just so much more space to operate in. But the premise of sealing somebody in, popping off the crease, finding space behind the seal, okay, and now highlighting the 2-on-1 off ball. Another example of this. Same set, little bit different motion up top. We actually changed the motion in this game where we sent the top center guy. The last time the top center guy went down to the backside and cut through, almost like a double down, like we would talk about in box. This time we sent him through on kind of a shallow cut, you know, underneath. But the result ends up being the same thing. Seal on the backside. Watch 45. And 45 is actually talking to 77. Here's 45 right here. 45 is going down. He's actually talking to 77. And 77 is really reading his man. You know, if 77's man stayed with him and came underneath the seal that was coming down there, then 77 would pop and he would tight cut around looking for the ball. But if he stays under it, then he's just going to sit in space. And that's exactly what happens. Say he stays. These two guys, both the guys actually stay, you know, under it, and so 77 just pops and he sits in space. Okay, let's look at it from a low wing now. Okay, two-man game from a low wing situation. So Canada's back in red here. This is just above goal line extended, but this is very similar to a box play. Imagine an up pick coming up to the half boards, and we're going to take the under route. Watch what happens here. Although there's no contact, the dodger does a great job of engaging too. So right here, the dodger engages both defenders. Okay, so both D guys are now looking at the ball. This is what we would call a tight mirror. So there was no contact made. There was no pick being done, but we come close to the ball to bait our defender to look at the ball, stare at the ball, or play the ball. And then we're going to open up real quick, okay, and be an outlet for the ball carrier. Once we open up real quick, there's an opportunity to throw back, and now we get the defense to rotate. Okay, one other thing I want you to look at here is away from the play. And this is another box skill. When the ball is low, high guy cut. You know, we'll talk a little bit more about 3-man, strong side, 3-man cycles, because that's becoming a big part of the field game. But I want you to watch 41 right here, or sorry, 91. Watch 91. As the 2-man game is happening on the low wing, watch how 91 cuts the middle. And by 91 cutting the middle, it takes one guy, if not two guys with him, all the way down to the top of the crease. And it leaves all this green space for a guy to follow into the ball, okay, and rotate in. And that's how we ended up generating this goal. It wasn't necessarily the 2-man game, although they did a fantastic job of drawing to the ball, but that cut opened up the whole lane, and it allowed us to fill the gap behind them, and it got the defense to rotate. And then we were pretty much just in a simple one more situation. Here's another low wing example, incorporating some 2-man game. We see this a lot in the indoor game. See it in the NLL all the time. Okay, so here it is right now. The under. We're going under. Okay, we're going under, one hand on our stick. 77. He's a tight mirror, so he comes to the Dodger, and then he pops behind the ball quickly. He's baiting number 7 in green to slide. There's an option for a little flip pass or a roll away and throw back, or a switch to hands, and I call it a money pass across your body, but we're attacking underneath. And if 7 doesn't commit to the under, then it's going to give the under open. And you know, one of the big changes in the college game in the last few years has been the dive. The international game has had it, you know, all the time, but the dive is an exciting part of the game. And by attacking this low wing with a tight mirror, it gives you that option. If they don't want to commit to the slide off the mirror man because they're so worried about the throwback or the little you know, drop pass over the shoulder, then you're going to open up lanes for the underneath. And this was a great job by 45. This is Hogg. He plays at the University of Albany, of just getting across, almost getting all the way across the far pipe, and making sure that he didn't drift to the near side of the goal. Here's a little bit higher on the wing. Okay, this is a different angle. This is from 2018 World Championships in Israel. This is actually the gold medal game. Watch the 2-man game here. Again, here's a tight mirror. Okay, so the point of this was going to try to get the off-ball defender of all the 2-man game to bite on the top side. He does not. He kind of sits there. Right now. Ball comes back again to the wing. Another pick being set. Good under. Now I want you to look at the motion of the picker on this one. This, I believe, is Mark Matthews. Watch how Mark Matthews starts kind of on the top shoulder right here. And then at the last second, swings his hips around to pick for the under. And what this allows, you know, him to do is it allows him to keep his D guy, his defender, high and on the inside. If he just came underneath and he picked underneath right away, then his D guy could really kind of sit in space and just sit there. There's the same thing we just saw him do on the over when we just picked down in the previous play. But by jump picking, and that's the term we use, called the jump pick, you quickly swing your hips around, jump pick to the other side. It gives a lane towards the net. And this is what opened up this scoring opportunity. Now, I'll talk about quickly, just it's not the 2-man game, but this is an important piece of the field game. And you know, Canadians do it best. I just want you to take a peek right there of X play right now. I call it the hang-up game. And you know, a lot of people refer to the hang-up game when the ball gets, you know, thrown behind and there's a D guy hung above the goal and there's scrambled eggs up top. Okay, what I talk about the hang up game is really the off ball play, and not allowing the third defender to be involved in a two-man game situation. And again, the 3 is better than 2, 3 is greater than 2 concept. This is the third man that is in essence involved in this two-man game. And so watch how he does a really good job. This is Jeff Teat, how he does a really good job of playing the cat and mouse just at X. And we don't end up scoring here, but you could see how the slide, the third defender is late. He's late to helping to the ball, and that's all because of Jeff doing a good job hanging him up, playing that cat and mouse game. Another example from the wing. This was Jeremy Noble on the wing with Curtis Dixon. You see Curtis do this a ton, comes from a low spot, tries to pick for the over, and then he quickly slips under, tries to beat him, rolling to the net. We don't have anything. We go back again. Curtis comes pick for the top side. They do a good job of just switching. We get a matchup that we want. Bring it over here to the other side, and we realize that we've got Kevin Crowley with a short stick, and we're going to pick for the under. Now, why we did this was we knew that they didn't really want to switch. You know, if it was high up, outside the box and up in this area, then they would. But when low and in the half boards, they wanted to try and stay on their matchups a little bit more. And so an up pick for the under. Now watch the route that the D guy takes. The D guy goes under here, but Mark Cockerton takes a great little angle towards the goal. And he kind of cuts him off right there. Takes a step towards the middle. A lot of times players will just go to that near pipe and they'll end up drifting behind the goal. He goes and kind of cuts upfield and he goes far pipe and he aims for the top of the crease tangent. But one more here, one more example of kind of the two-man game. This is a sweep and a slip. So again, what's the point of the two-man game? Well, there's in box, it's creating making a 2-on-2, now a 2-on-1. And it's really the same thing in field. You just have a lot more space to operate in. Watch how we come to the Dodger as the mirror man. Here's the mirror man right here, or the picker. He comes to the Dodger, and as soon as he sees the Dodger put his foot in the ground and go, he opens up to the ball and he sinks down the field. Okay, he sinks down. This is a pick and roll. It's the same exact thing. Okay, his defender now is engaged in the ball. He has got good separation from himself and the ball carrier. Okay, and he finds a great lane, and now they got to rotate. And they did a nice job defensively. They didn't fully rotate. I think we probably could have sucked this guy in a little bit more by taking one more step towards the goal. And if we would have done that, we probably would have had a cleaner 2-on-1 down below with our pipe guys. But instead, he recovers back. They scramble a bit, and they play some pretty good defense there. A couple other things I want to show you now. I want to kind of move on to talking about the 3 is greater than 2. So I'm just going to switch gears here, go into another playlist. Okay. I said before, if there was one drill I could do, and only one drill, that this would be the one. This is the drill. I call it 3-on-3 double team. And what it is it's working in confined spaces. It's in essence box lacrosse on a field. And so for field coaches out there that don't have the luxury of having the same team play box and field and being able to practice in both settings, this is a great way to kind of get those reps out. And so it's a small field here. We have cones that are up and down. They're 15 yards in width. So they go all the way down here and they go all the way here. So it's really tight. And then there's cones that go across the middle, and it's 3-on-3 ping pong action back and forth. So on the bottom of the screen, you have 3 offensive players that are in white. You've got 3 defensive players that are in black. Now, the point of the drill is the black is looking to double team the ball as quickly and as often as they possibly can. White needs to play in space. They need to play in the space that's given to them, which is a 15 by 15 yard area. And so it's more than they think when they first start the drill. And typically we only do this with just short sticks. On this day, a couple of weeks ago, we did it with long poles, make it a little bit more challenging, and that it was. But it's just playing back and forth. So it's a quick rep there, 3-on-3. And then the other 3 guys down at the other end have a ball in hand ready to go. And so you're making quick decisions, one after the other. There's not a ton of dead time. Ball gets thrown down. We're looking for a quick double team. Here's a quick mirror, okay? Tight mirror rollout, trying to suck this other defender in to looking at the ball, opening up underneath. Can we execute a clean pass to him there? He drops the ball, you move on, okay? So it's not a drill where you're blowing the whistle constantly and stopping things. You're letting guys kind of figure it out. And here's a good example of what it would look like. So if you can execute this play, here's the ball right here. Here's the defender, and then here's the defender that's on him. Here's a little slip, tight mirror, roll underneath, and we throw it underneath, okay? Now, why do I not just do 2-on-2s? Because it's really important to get a third guy involved. You know, I learned a long time ago when I was playing junior A lacrosse. This was in 2004. We were in the Minto Cup in New Westminster, was hosting it. 6 nations came out, and they were the representative from the East, and Buffalo Bandits and 6 Nations. There was a lot of coaches that played for the Bandits, and they were instilling this, if the ball's high, push it low and jump it. If the ball's low, push it high and jump it. And so it was pretty much funneling everything down to the half boards. And so if you just kind of ran a simple 2-man game, you were screwed. They were going to lock you up. They were going to put pressure on you. You were going to try to throw one into the middle to a pick and roll guy, and the backside was going to shift over, and they were just going to crush you. And so it was Kurt Malowski. Russ and I were just talking about Kurt Malowski, but Kurt Malowski was my coach at the time, and we made sure we got the third guy involved. And I'll be honest with you, that was the first time I ever heard of this concept. And we didn't do it until we got to the Minto Cup. And we bring the third guy involved, and the third guy would either come high up top center X, or go low behind the net at X. And if the ball was high, we would up pick and we would sink that guy behind at X, because we knew we were going to get jumped and we couldn't throw the ball to the inside, or we couldn't make a clean pass to the inside or to the roll man. So the easiest play was just to throw it forward. Okay. And let that guy find the opening. And that's where this whole concept of 3 is better than 2, 3 is greater than 2 came into play. And that is why I do this drill 3-on-3, is to throw an extra guy out there to be a rebounder, to be involved in the play, to make sure that if they do rotate, that he's just not standing still on the backside. He's involved and he's listening for the one more. So 3-on-3 double team drill is a great drill to do. You don't have to do it ping pong back and forth. If you don't have a lot of bodies, you can just use one goal in the crease, still put it in a confined area. D guys can play offense as well in this. We'll do it at times where we have offensive and defensive guys mixed up. In this example, it's just O guys playing offense right now and D guys playing defense. But you saw that first clip that we went through about transition and working on the pick and roll game or the 2-man game in transition. This helps with that skill, as well. A couple other things I want to show you now, moving on here. Here's just a good example. This is from a couple years back, but here are 2 guys, one guy that's playing in the National Lacrosse League now, another guy that's going to be here shortly. But this isn't field. To me, this defines the box 2-man game, this kind of pattern that they have here. quick little give and go, right? It's the first rule that we teach. Throw it down to the half boards, quick give and go. Now we're inside positioning, come from the inside out, okay, set a pick, and then roll out of it and slip. Not there, kind of go back, dodge your guy and go back at him and stay engaged and mirror. And so I always show that clip whenever I talk about the two-man game, because this is, in my opinion, what it should look like on the field, on the box rink, doesn't matter where, but this is constant action. And this is what Canadians are so good at. Okay, 3 is greater than 2. Here's some examples with that. Okay, this is going against the zone defense, but I want you to watch right here how we have a two-man game happening right here on the wing. And our third guy involved is actually our X guy. It's very similar to what we saw on the clip with Jeff Teat kind of playing that hang-up game with Kevin Crowley setting that up pick. We draw 2 to the ball, so we suck 2 into the ball. Okay, ball goes to X. Did a nice job of playing the hang-up game to get our hands free. And now we throw it in. And this is in essence what Kurt Malowski taught us in 2004 against Six Nations. As we go underneath, we're going to get jammed up right here. As this guy rolls to the middle, number 3 in white, it's going to be very hard for him to throw that ball inside cleanly. And so the easiest thing for him to do is to play it forward, throw it to the third man, and then let the third man make the play of throwing the ball to the inside. Now, I don't love the finish because he drifts to the near pipe. I would like to see him go all the way across to the far pipe. Another example. Same day. Ball goes to X, and now all of a sudden, the picker slips to the middle, and the top row, this top defender, he kind of catches on and says, wait a second, I'm not going to leave that middle wide open. I'm going to help all the way down. Okay. Why I like the third guy getting involved as well is because this guy has the best eyes in the house. He's able to see everything. So he can see the whole field. And this is a great landmark to be in. Remember I talked about earlier about being in the crust. This is in the crust. The release point is back here where you would set that pick behind the net. The island is up here. We want to operate in that crust. If he's too tight, if he's in here, then it's too quick of a rotation for that backside D guy to come over. Okay. If he's too wide, if he's out into this space, then he's not really involved in the play. No one needs to go play him. And so he's sitting right in the crust and he's operating the crust and he can see a great lane and he finds a guy on a skip. Another example of a third guy getting involved. Same thing, two-man game, third guy, okay, a little sloppy here because it was a bad initial pass, but he's in a good position to receive the ball. Okay, if it's a clean pass, he can catch that. He can kind of come up the crust and he can read the play. One more here. Same thing just on the other side. Good pick and roll. It's good contact here. They have to step out because there is clean, good contact right here. Stationary. Okay, they have to step up and play the ball. Great roll to the net. Good spot with the X guy with keeping his feet moving to make a pass. Okay, let's transfer over now and look at some three-man stuff. So here's an example of working in threes. This is from last year. This is Denver versus Ohio State. And really all this is, and I was going to let this roll and let you watch this. This is just two strong sides working together. And so you've got lefties that are, on the one side, top of the screen, you got righties that are on the other side, and they're just working in threes. It's not twos, it's not pairs, it's threes. probably should have called for the one more, or maybe he did call for it right here and given it to him because the guy's coming up the crust. Okay, but you've got 3 lefties, 1 lefty, 2 lefty, 3 lefty, and you got 3 righties. And they're all flowing together. And it's basketball, it's box lacrosse offense. It's cycling, it's good spacing. It's if there's a pass down, pick down, then there's a cutter. Swing pass, right? How many times we see this in the box game? Ball gets thrown up, ball gets thrown over, swing pass, throw it down. Come down, pick for the ball. Mirror man, tight mirror. So come over the top side. Throw back. Slip, get it out. Swing pass. Pick for the ball, top side. Pick and roll. Okay, it's the strong side, right? It's the strong side of the box floor. And this is becoming a little bit more popular now, as opposed to just getting into an open and playing a pairs game, or being in a 1-4 and having a two-man game on one side and a 3-man game on another side and an X guy. The incorporation of 3 guys flowing and playing together it's harder to play against defensively, because now all of a sudden those base D guys aren't necessarily locked in or anchored into the crease. They've got to be involved in the motion of the offense. Here's another example of it. So here's a great look. This is the same thing. Again, I'm going to refer back to Kurt Malowski. Okay. Up pick. We're going under. Pressure the ball. We can't necessarily throw back to this guy cleanly. We're relying on a flip pass. We don't feel comfortable with that. And so who's the third guy? This is the third guy involved in the 2-man game. Ball goes down to the third guy. And now the third guy can find him. They end up having to rotate over now. So now this is Duke and White. They're transitioning, rotating from one side of the field to the other side of the field, which is a good thing for us offensively. The more movement we can have the defense, the better. The more they have to scramble, the better. Up pick, under, roll back, up, swing, now play. So it's constant movement in threes. And again, this is challenging to play defense against. And this is something that I feel that Canadian lacrosse players are exceptional in. You know, I don't feel like American players are great at this right now, because they're not as used to playing in that tight confined space, like that double drill or that 3-on-3 double drill that I showed before. But Canadians are, because we're so used to being covered by a guy and somebody draped all over us and still having to make plays. So those are just some of the concepts that I wanted to cover with you this evening regarding the 2-man game and the 3-man game. I'd love to open it up here, Russ, if we got some time for any questions, if there are any.
Yeah. It looks like that number 9, Alex Simmons, looked like he might be a good NLL pickup. Just throwing that up there. Yeah, it's a great session, and I agree. From just coaching at the youth level down in the US and high school tournaments and whatnot, one of the things I've noticed is they're very robotic in what they're trying to do. They're trying to mimic some of the box concepts, but they don't learn in the confined space. So they're trying to create checks and balances, like pass down, pick down, and they want to run it like on a perfect V. But as we know in box lacrosse, it never happens that way, right? A guy might push you off the pick. You got to find a way to counter it. So I think the confined space part is a great comment. What's the impact the shot clock's had now on this? Are you finding more college teams, high school teams, because I'm sure you do your fair share of scouting, are really, even some of the traditional system or traditional coaches are flipping to a faster paced offense like a box lacrosse offense might be?
Yeah, I think that the shot clock is definitely affected it. I think it's taken some of the control out of the game, which I think is a good thing, to be honest with you. Listen, we're all control freaks, right? And so if you allow us to have control, then we will. But if you force us not to, and I was just watching Miami basketball before jumping on here, it's teach them, train them, and trust them. And I think that's really, really important. And that's something that we're focusing a lot on at Denver is you got to trust your guys. You know, if you've done your prep work, if you've done your training, if you've done your skill work, if you've done really good teaching, then they're going to understand the concepts. They're going to recognize the situations. Now you let them be the players, and I start to see that kind of evolving and growing across the board. It's not just, you know, you have to go from point A to point B, and C goes to D, and Y goes to Z. You know, it doesn't work that way anymore. And that's why I love that 3-on-3 drill, is because the same thing doesn't happen twice in a row. It's something different happens every single rep, and you need to figure it out. And that's why Canadians are the best, is we've been figuring it out since we were mini tykes, you know, and growing up. And that's my message to all Canadian lacrosse players, to all Canadian coaches, is, you know, with how much with how much field there is now, continue to play box, because that's what separates us from the rest of the world. You know, the box game is our secret sauce.
And one question I had come in, what are some, you know, tips or tricks you might have for a box coach that's, you know, taking a group out onto the field for creating, you know, that box field, but also getting the spacing you need to give you some advantage over the long pulls?
Yeah, and I'm just going to show you, it's a great question, because that's one of the questions that I get a lot, as far as, you know, box coaches coming to the field. You know, a simple set to talk about, and it's really easy, is a 1-4 set. And spacing is really important in the field game because of the long pulls. But if you operate in a 1-4, it gives you a little bit more space on the perimeter. There's not 5 on the perimeter, there's only 4. Now, what I will say with that is that you better be able to run a little bit with the ball, or have somebody pop off the crease to be a ball support, you know, for the ball, because there is greater distance, you know, on the perimeter. But, you know, as far as spacing goes and motions go, you know, the simplest of offense, but a lot of people are running it, is if the ball's on the right side of the floor here, the field, that you have a pairing of the inside guy with the ball, and they can operate in all the stuff we just saw on all those clips. And then on your backside, you have the triangles, and these guys are 3-man, and it's our strong side. It's the same thing as box. And then at X, you have Jeff Teat down there, and, you know, he's able to work on an island. He's able to play the hang-up game. Now, spacing wise, the number one thing that I teach youth players playing box is the number one thing I teach field players playing field off ball, is that if I'm part of the backside 3 triangle, I'm going to drift, and I'm going to find my cut. I'm going to leak out the back, and I'm going to roll over the top. And when that should happen as the 2-man game is going on. So as soon as this 2-man game happens, and whether it's a tight mirror because we're going under, or it's a pick and a chip, or it's a slip, that's when that backside motion should happen. Now, who's on the inside now? Who's on the outside? That's always the question that I get. Well, the cutter, the top center guy, ends up being an inside guy. And then the dodger, once he dodges and then moves the ball, he becomes an inside guy. And now you're balanced back up into your shape. and you could attack the left side of the field now. And so now you have, you know, your square over here and your square over here and your triangle here and your triangle on this side. And so this really helps with spacing. And another key to this whole thing, put cones out. Put them out there just to give them some guidance, because what will happen on the first day, or if you don't give them any guidance at all, what will happen is that they'll all start to be bunched up right here in the middle. And so put those cones out there as landmarks, run your offense with those cones. I always say, you know, get wider first. You know, it's easier to run forward than backwards, right? So take space early and then always step into it and take what's given to you after that. But that would be something that I would do for a box guy coming into the field and trying to teach, you know, constant motion and spacing on the field.
That's fantastic. We're getting close to our other session. I knew I was going to get this question. What programs are you using to show us this great information? Which is why I asked before, because I knew we'd get asked about it. We'll maybe put it into the chat window here, because some people probably want to go jump on this.
Now, this thing I'm drawing on right now, it's just a drawing app. It's called Procreate, you know, and I think it's $20 or something like that on your app store. It's not a lacrosse. It's not a lacrosse app. It's a drawing app, and then you can just take PDFs or whatever you want, full fields, half fields. I just found them on the internet, to be honest with you, and I just dropped them in here. And then the other this is probably the best tool there is in our sport, and it's called Score Break. And I'm just going to give you a glimpse of the insides here. But Score Break allows you to upload all your films. You know, we can upload all our practice films on the inside here. We have all our scouting games, every team that we see in college lacrosse, all our own games. There's chat features where you can communicate with your players and send them clips. And then there's playlists, which you can have all different types of playlists and scouting playlists and from year after year. So this is called Score Break. It was created by a guy named Jordan Hendry, who's a former player of mine at the University of Denver. And as I was saying to you before, Russ, I think he started this about 7 years ago, and it's just totally evolved, and it's an amazing tool to have, and I'd highly recommend if you're into this stuff, diving into film and having something like this. There's no better tool than Score Break.
That's great. That's great. We've got Coach Fridge coming up here right away. I really appreciate it, Coach Brown, taking the time out of your incredibly busy schedule. Real excited to see Alex Simmons in a Firewolves jersey next season, and see a little Matt Brown Fox Lacrosse come into our organization. Best of luck to you in the NCAA this year, and of course going forward with Team Canada. And again, we'll probably call on you again in the future and keep using your knowledge and understanding to make us all a little bit better.
That sounds great, Russ. Thanks for having me, Jillian. Thanks for having me on. Anytime. I love doing this stuff. And to everybody watching, thank you for everything that you do and giving back to the sport. That's what it's all about, is passing it on and making the next generation better. So thank you, everybody, for what you're doing.
So our second presenter today is Mr. Daren Fridge, coming to us from Port Coquitlam, or maybe just Coquitlam. He is the U20 men's national team assistant coach. I know he has a lot of other stuff going on as well, which I'll let him speak to. And yeah, I'll let Tim take it away. He's talking about the 3 phases for U13 box, or U11 to U13. So
thanks,
there you go.
Jillian.
If you have any questions, just throw them in the chat and we'll make sure that they get asked.
Good evening, everyone. One of the things that you regret doing is be a non-technical guy following Brownie. Matt is a friend of mine, but someone that I agree with Russ's comments at the beginning of his presentation. Just a brainiac to do with the game, tremendous lacrosse IQ, and I've recently had the pleasure of spending the summer about 20 days with him and Taylor Ray and Mark Miashta, Snyder, Merrick Thompson, and Sean Wilkie in just being immersed in it. You go to bed, they're talking about it. You wake up, they're talking about it. When we were at the where you saw Ireland compete. Before I get started, I just wanted to do a few shout outs to people that have mentored me along the way. Paul Del Monte kind of introduced me or gave me a chance to coach in the NLL. I've been connected with the Saskatchewan Rush and Portland Lumberjacks through a great mentor of mine named Derek Keenan. And as mentioned earlier, I grew up with Kurt, playing Kurt Malosky, playing lacrosse, and seeing what he's been able to do with that. I mean, Christian Del Bianco is amazing right now and continues to be a top-notch goalie, but for sure, he's got to be a candidate for Coach of the Year in the NLL. I'm hoping I'm not, for the people on the East Coast, I hope I'm not the melatonin for your rest tonight. Brownie did cover a lot with video. I will not be that guy, but I do have an Instagram site where I've shared videos in the past that I'll reference. But before we can even get to thinking about a lot of the things that Matt was talking about, we need those basic structures, and that's where I'm hoping to take you today. Before I get started here, I just want to acknowledge that we're talking about the Creators Game today from the Coquitlam First Nation, where I reside right now. This is a beautiful photo from this is like the Anmore, Belcara area, which looks back towards the Tsleil-Waututh and Squamish nations, but it's at a place called Dees Vistas, which is a heck of a hike, but just a tremendous day in view that took place a few weeks ago with Mitch Cavalarin and our U18 team. This is where we started from, and like anything, as soon as you put it into print, it becomes outdated. I know, speaking from being a writer 20 years ago, with the introduction or intro to competition with field lacrosse, I incorporate as much new stuff that I learned from the coaches that I'm around, because we are out of date the moment it's in print, and that particular manual hasn't been done for 20 years. Where I'm hoping to lead you today is just to focus on some of that technical and tactical approaches without kind of overwhelming you with X's and O's. And then I've broken it down by position. What will come through loud and clear are sort of the opinions that I have. And I know in working with Derek Keenan, there's a quote that they've had before. We aim for perfection and we'll settle for excellence, as Brownie talked about too, where we want to push these athletes to try to do things perfectly, but we do have to do a better job of adjusting or making adjustments and not be too programmed. There are many times where we're in a reality where we're presenting drills or systems that aren't at the level of our players. Very frustrating as what would be an older person now in my 50s, seeing, a tier 2 level game or a B level game, and they're running a zone defense, and we're more focused on the winning and less about the system learning and teaching and developing. And I'll just say that it's not an exact science. Some of us that are on today, you're able to choose from a pool of, say, 60 players and maybe get to pick the top to be a part of your team. And then others that are happy to get 35 to 40 at a tryout. And you've got, whether you're in a rural community or not, but you've got a few A players mainly B, and then some C level players where you've got to incorporate into those same systems, make sure it's equal playing time. How do you construct a practice and not, mess up the drill, or have what we call, or I have used the reference of drill killers. It's a real careful and challenging thing to do. So here are what I would put into the non-negotiables with this particular age group. I am an elementary principal, have been for about the last 7 or 8 years. And before that, I was a vice principal in teaching. We know in elementary school in particular, if they're 5 or 6 years old, that's about the time frame that you have with them. So in this particular age group from 10 to 12, I would highly recommend, their concentration level is only for like 15 minutes. So each activity, whether you give them a quick break in between or just a water break, but you move from one session to the next one in, 10 to 15 minute chunks. Depending on your association, it's going to differ whether you have your own floor. Most of it's like an hour or an hour and a half. Maybe you get that once a week. One week you're indoor, or one practice you're indoor, the other you're outdoor. So obviously there's things you can't do outdoors that you can do in for the safety of your players and following and things like that. A message I would give you is if it takes you more than 5 minutes to explain a drill, then they're not ready. So you can use your whiteboard, which you're going to lose my face with the setup I've got, but show it on a whiteboard and then physically get them to do it in slow motion. And then another thought would be to break, if it's a 5-step thing, to try to break it into 2 or 3. But in the same way we're going to teach children is we got to chunk it up sometimes and not give them like the whole project at once. We just got to break it up into pieces. Another thought to consider is to not overcoach at the beginning. So throw them into the drill. You've set it up as you wish, but don't stop it every second to correct it. Let them try it for a while, and then come in at the end to give greater suggestions or coach them up as they're doing the drill, but to try to keep the flow and not stop it and keep the pace of your practice going. So as Brownie mentioned, and it was, I'm glad he did, the rub with being too, or it might have been you, Russ, too, in reference to the United States or the athletes there, they're too mechanical or too structured. We're missing certain situations where they're not looking at what's in front of them, and they're wanting to like impress the coach or not fail, but they're running a play, but they're not seeing what's in front of them. So where I see it, and when I'm assessing players or scouting for the next level, their ability to see the situation developing and react appropriately is way more important. But it does go without, it's like the philosophy, like just throw out a ball in basketball and let them go play. Well, you're going to get a whole range of shooting styles in the same way. There's the blend of both is my suggestion and my wish. And whether I'm wrong in that thinking, I still think we need some structure, but then in many ways we can structure it in a way that we can accomplish two things and continue to build on it. So to simplify things, Brownie talked about swinging the ball. I think everybody understands that. It goes from right shooter to left shooter and into the corner. So that could be one way. Every corner pass or every corner movement for basic offense would see an off-ball cutter, or the low crease man is going to set a pick and then flash to the middle. But basically, you're going to get action on ball and off ball. Kurt Molosky's one of the comments he's made, or it's ingrained in my head, is as soon as you receive the ball, you look off ball, you hold for 1 or 2 seconds, there's nothing there. You run your 2-man game on ball. And then if you have nothing, then you're going to swing the ball. So off ball, on ball, swing the ball. Those are ways of doing that. And then when we swing away, we've got to move ourselves. So Brownie, Matt talked about like fading and whatever your lingo is, but you're gonna cut through the middle, which is basic. You're gonna seal down as the right shooter down towards the right creaseman, or you're just gonna sort of do a fake cut through, but you're gonna get through the middle on your own side. They're gonna carry up from below without the big. They're gonna just switch as defenders, but it does change their focus, and they can't totally watch the three-man side or off ball. I think the easiest way of dealing with this is to attack their two side. So whatever the opposite to the strong side is, but like your two-man side, we swing away. If I'm on the two-man side to the three side, they run some action, it comes back to my side, and then we try to keep it to a like split the floor in half with obviously a focus looking off ball. But I think when we try to do 5 things at once or have 5 athletes going at the same time, it does make things challenging. They are 10 to 12 years old, and with, you know, like the squirrel mentality, like not everybody's going to understand. They're going to be at different levels of acknowledging the play and what they're supposed to be doing. They're going to be nervous as heck and high in anxiety. So this is just a suggestion as something that you can build from. Any opportunity now of using their quickness or setting up situations where you can get isolations. Like, I don't know how you defend like Josh Byrne or Keegan Ball right now in just how quickly they can get to the net. Their ability to jump over the crease and score is some other thing that we don't necessarily have to worry about in minor lacrosse. But any way that you can set up a situation where there's a one-on-one is your basic offense. That will also set up the 2-man game, and then the 3-man off ball or the 3-person off ball action. There are people on the call that already know these, but you know, you're running a rattlesnake off ball, you're running a double down off ball, anything that's going to occupy and free up that 2-man side, I think would keep things as easy as possible. Being unpredictable is not being mechanical. It's not doing the same thing. It's sometimes going to the mid boards or the half boards. It's definitely getting to the inside and coming to the outside. Do I go hard over the top or do I go down below? Where defenses, and I'll talk about it on a later slide, where defenses now, field included, we don't want to allow athletes or shooters to get over the top. So prevent the OTT. So do not let them get over the top. But we have got to, in order to be successful, we've got to get into that prime scoring area. So getting over the top is a must if we're ever going to generate offense. There's like the 45-degree angle, like this defenses that Matt Brown was talking about there, on the 45-degree angle off the post to the corner. They want to confine us to one area of the floor because the shooting average is very low there. So we want to fight to get into that prime scoring area, which is the V in front of the crease. Center point. So here's where my frustrations may come out, and you'll get a sense of it as we go. So when I talk about the center point, I mean splitting the floor all the way down the middle in between the two goalies. So right-handers need to be on the right-hander side, sticks to the inside, lefties, so playing on your proper sides. Field across nets are not helping us with this. The athletes are running to the there's offensive set up where their stick is on the wrong side. That way they can guarantee they can free their hands to shoot on the run. They see now a 4x4, and the luxury of a 6x6 net is not there. I get it. It's easier for junior age and senior, so senior athletes. Now they got the 4x4.6, and then you go pro, it's 4x4.9. So those nets are false positive when you stick a portly goalie in his net with possibly illegal flared pads. There's not a whole lot of options to shoot at, but credit to, the social platforms that are out there. They see a style or a shot that they want to take or learn. But the main challenge that we have, or at least as an older coach, is trying to break them of those habits and picking the right time. The score is 2-1, and they saw a backbreaker on TV, or sorry, it wouldn't be on TV. It would be on social media. And that's the time where they want to try it. It's 2-1, right? It's not 4-1 or 5-1. So I defend or understand their value or their wish to be creative, but sometimes it becomes like a math lesson for me where physically, you're unable to get it there without throwing a backhand or some type of twister. So please encourage your athletes to shoot from their proper sides. Remind them to take 2 or 3 steps. Like the greatest example I can give you is watching NHL hockey players on the penalty shootout at the end. They're going way out to keep a shooting, or they're going the opposite side to get creative. But we won't have that time in a box game, but there are times where we can take 1, 2, 3 steps over to as a right-hander, I'm going to step to my left side just slightly so that I can come across the crease to get that proper shot. Too many times they're running as fast as they can. They're going straight down the middle of the floor, and the options that they have to shoot are not good. Encourage the overhand and 3/4 shooting. I'm at a practice earlier this afternoon where there's a seal or a screen type setup for the goalies. And there's no way that you should actually hit the guy in front of you. And thank goodness it was a player, but the ball they tried a sidearm, the bag in their stick hooked, it hit another athlete right in the spine. And you're like, oh my gosh, we're shooting over the screen, not around, not through, shoot over the screen. So we have a challenge. The pocket of my stick is very shallow. I counted on wrists in and out, snap my wrist to get the balls to where they need to go. I would be lying if I thought the pockets in our sticks today are working. They push past in order to get it there, in order to keep the bag of their stick. It's their weapon. We can't really do much about it other than trying to encourage them. But too often, the perfect play has been set up. The shooter is ready to receive, and the pass that's coming is a down and away twister down towards their feet because they can't snap the ball and get it around. So somewhere in between, we all don't need tennis rackets, but we don't need these thick, heavy bags of fishing nets that we're trying to manipulate the ball with. So somewhere in between. And then encouraging just wrist fakes, not completely turning the hand over in order to throw fakes. Just those little hitch or wrist fakes are exactly what we need in tight to make those quick shots. And then the last one is just not necessarily a philosophy or thought, but too often we're getting to a point where we're shooting we're watching the athletes warm up the goalie and they're throwing it as hard as they can, and it's not going where they want it to go. So a wonderful shot last night. They just took a half speed shot short side was all that they had to do. They didn't have to throw it as hard, and it looks like, oh my God, it's off speed. How does it get in there? Because it's going to the right spot.
Coach, do you spend quite a bit of time at the beginning of the season with this age group, kind of going through each of their sticks? I agree with you. Their sticks are all over the place, especially at this age. Oftentimes by U15, they'll kind of start to figure it out. How much time are you spending, and what kind of direction are you giving so you're not standing on the side stringing sticks the whole time? Are you sending them to YouTube or how would you approach that?
Well, I'm not the best example for this because I'll give them my stick. Like if I get a new mesh that like the kids to do it, give them $20 later because I just don't want to spend the time. But for sure, the amount of time we spend, it's there, like depending on the level, like if I'm coaching junior A, it's much different, but you have to intervene. You can see if I'm following through and it's going to the ground, it's hooking. So it's a combination. I don't even ask them. I take out a little bit from their pocket. It could be their shooting strings. Definitely, they will learn everything they can from the internet for sure. But I don't know how much stress you want to add to your life other than, go to the boards, hit the throw it against the wall, 50 times and try to hit the same spot. I think that's an easy way for you to do it. And you can see it on the balls bouncing over their heads. Are they to that same spot and back, switching hands, that sort of thing. So I wouldn't spend a ton of time on it. No. Oh, what's going on with my screen here? There we go. Just defensively, and this looks foreign to you, but this is taken from Taylor Ray, who's mentioned this before. So 17% of the time in a field game, it's a 1-on-6. Like a 1-on-1 is going to happen 17% of the time. The rest of the 83% of the time, we need to focus on the work of the other 5 guys. So a 1 out of 6 is the 17%, and then the 83. So it's bumped up a little bit more when we're talking about defense as a whole. 1v5 or a 1-on-1 is going to happen 20% of the time, and that's how you need to set up your practices. So I do want to know who's got bad feet. I do, like if I'm doing an evaluation and who needs who's standing too tall and things like that. But in a 4v5 scenario is more beneficial, as Matt talked about, and I'll mention briefly in a 3-on-3 drill. That is more realistic than blow your whistle, they go out of the corner. Another one, top shooter, opposite side, bottom corner. So they're going 1-on-1, and the likelihood of it happening where it's just them is not there. We incorporate, we want to set that 1-on-1 up, but we also have to have that 1-on-1 guy understand, who am I passing to? Is my head down? Am I not focusing on, am I going to get blown up if I don't do it this way? So that's how, I wouldn't focus on it all the time, but I think the bigger chunk of your time should be spent on team concepts. Common faults, and it doesn't matter what level you're at. Communication. So the power of voice. Levi Virch, who's Victoria or Claremont guy, and he's playing out on a Nanaimo and he's down at St. Joseph's. He has a quieter personality. I see him 3 months later at a national team tryout. I'm like, where did this come from? As a D, Taylor Ray has set it up so that if Levi is not yelling or communicating with his other teammates, they are yelling at him. So the power of voice, we drive ourselves nuts. It happened all through U18 field season. We think that, we're going to solve this defensive plan by osmosis or through some thinking he knows what I'm doing. But that power of the voice and making sure we're communicating, letting him know what side the pick's coming, open up whatever your lingo is, that is crucial. Like, it will help everything. And it's intimidating. Like, we don't hear the NLL music and all that stuff going in most local arenas, but letting each other know where it's coming, open up, it is so powerful. Secondly, checking their same-handed player. So this doesn't seem strange. You play offense on one side of the floor, you come back and you're like, so the field or the playing surface is exactly the same, but you're defending the proper handed player. So there are common faults where we go to the wrong side of the floor for some reason. Yes, it's never a perfect science. You're playing a team that only has like 3 lefties on the whole team. There might be a 1-4 scenario that might present itself, but we want to match our hands. So as a righty, I'm checking lefties. As lefties, you're checking righties. It's a simple thing we have to do. taking a poor pathway to the ball. And I'll talk about that on that final point on this slide. So whether it's a C path to the ball or an angle to the ball, we want to get up and take away, not allowing over the top. Okay, so poor pathway sees them get over. So it's not only our stick and it's our feet. So his stick is the middle of my chest. It will help me if I know that below me or my underside where my low hand is, if I have help or someone is communicating with me, that would help. But we're running straight at the man as soon as he's received the ball and he's already on the move. So getting that proper pathway. And then not having a low center of gravity. My personal belief, some Canadian, well, infield in particular, but Canadians are lazy. They'll fire out on the ball, but they won't stay in that ready stance on deep. They'll stand straight up and down. This is a common fault. They'll stand straight up and down and recognize, oh, and then their brain tells their body it's time to move. And by the time they do it, they're slow to it versus already being down in a ready position. You know, we're not doing lunges all day long in order to have the leg strength, but being down and ready is a key element to be able to explode versus standing straight up, getting down, and then exploding. So it's like a seconds thing or like a very small percentage of the time, but it does make a difference. And then widening that base just enough so that your feet aren't too close together and not being able to help. As great as the NLL is right now, we are not seeing the most like Matt had talked about the nation's defense. That was bringing elements of the American or field lacrosse, bringing elements of sliding and supporting. We're not seeing that anymore. So we don't have the greatest examples of things right now where they get the biggest, most athletic defenseman and then they pack it in. When we're trying to win, absolutely. That's probably what we'll do. We'll pack what in our world, the dotted line and force getting a 10 or 11-year-old to soak a shot, not a chance, right? But we try to be encouraging, but they're not, bodies physically are not ready for that. So we have to find different ways of thinking, oh, I'm going to pack it in. I'm going to challenge them to shoot over the top. It's not great. It's obviously wonderful to watch, but it's not about winning. At the level that you're trying to develop, it's about development. And if we're not teaching them to move around, pack the house, get in the house, it's all that same mentality that we've heard before, which is not making our athletes any better. So again, just on basic strategy on a 3-man side against a 3-man wall, like your strong right, you want to match up in the same fashion, which we just to bring a little Alberta into it, we don't want to be doing the do-si-do with each other, running through and backing around one another, just being playful. But the fact that 3-man wall is like the middle person is the center of a line on a football team, and he's got his 2 guards to his right and to his left. And how they operate is to protect the inside. Nothing gets through our wall. If someone comes to set a pick on my partner, I am going to clear them out before they can set a pick. We want them being the Keystone Cops on the outside, banging into each other versus allowing them into our body, allowing them to find our backs. It makes things very challenging once they've got position inside on us versus keeping them to the outside. So that's my basic strategy. An intermediate strategy, what we're seeing more and more of now, and it does fit that model of athletes soaking shots. Like in my time as a shooter, and we're going back a ways now, over 20 years, it was unheard of to step in the pathway or to take away far post. We're seeing more of that now with the rotation on a man down or a short man. Where athletes are actually stepping and taking away the far post. The goalie only has to think about short side, but the concept of anchoring your creases, I don't think changes in box or field. The moment we slide from our creases, we're setting ourselves up for a crease dunk or what would be a layup. So finding a way to not vacate your creases is the best way to do it. They pass their checks up and receive the new person below. In a play like a rattlesnake where the corner man has a focus, they don't want to chase out and vacate. They want to, maybe hedge out a little bit, but they don't want to go all the way to the boards. That way they can always be in position. Common error is to fire out. I got to get on the passer in the corner. Well, he's not a shooting threat. He is a passing threat. But if I go chase him, he could go underneath me. Coach is going to get choked at me. If I find that, a little bit of a hedge out and I'm going to bang it up or block it up, that's preferred. Harder to do. In my early days with the Vancouver Ravens, every time Colin Doyle got the ball late in the game, it was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? How do we stop this guy? And time after time after time, Colin would wreak havoc on teams, or the likes of Josh Sanderson, like incredible feeders. You draw a double team, they're going to pass off ball. So where to bring that slide from is more of a, if you bring it from the high person on the 3-man side, it will allow that passer, or sorry, the shooter that you're vacating to get that opportunity to shoot. So we're going to now force the top person to slide in a little bit and bring the help from the two sides. So the center that I defined earlier on that 3-man side, the moment the ball moves from being on ball, my shoulders are facing the boards. The moment the ball swings to the other side, my shoulders are facing the opposite goaltender. So the idea of our feet moving and turning with it. An additive from it would be that the highest person or the top person on the 3-man side be your most athletic person. And that will be, your fast break creator getting the ball out of your end. What are we doing for time? Okay, I better speed it up here. I would highly recommend the 3-2 or 2-3 system. I wish I had wonderful video to show you this, but I will get it up on my Instagram very soon. This is the best way to cover all of the, everybody plays offense and defense. It gives you options. So when I coach women's lacrosse, or at that particular time it was girls lacrosse, my daughter's team, they're teenagers. And we had like too many teams and not enough like skilled players. So all the skilled players were balanced or were spread around on many of the teams, versus it being something that we had the ability to control, where we could pick the best 16 players. So in this case, we made the 3s, which are, I'll define in a second. The 3s played, they were the ball handlers, and where the weaker skilled players new to the game, they ran the 2 positions. So they went out and play offense. We could get the ball out of our end. But when you have a choice, you want your most skilled players running as the 2s. They're breaking off the gate. They're out there getting, in some cases, more reps than the groups of 3s, but they're going as 2s. There's a right-hander and a left-hander, and their function, their function is to create offense and pressure the ball. But in most cases, when you are trying to break as 5, and it doesn't matter what level, you've got
Eastern time.
You've got players that are too tired and should get off, that stayed on an extra shift. Maybe they're not changing as a line of 5. And then the goalie gets the ball, they throw the ball to one person and 4 players are changing. And it doesn't matter how great the plan is, it's not perfect. In this, it defeats the press. There's 3 athletes going fresh. It very similar to, 5 D tranny type players that stay and play. All 5 guys are breaking out, harder to contain, but it's like the best way to get the ball out of your end. If you're a 3, you play defense, you transition up, you play offense, and then you change. The 2 is a fast break they're coming off the bench. So depending on the direction you're going, the first person that's going is the, if your lefty is on the gate, they're the first chance opportunity for a breakaway. They play offense, they transition back by finding the ball. If they don't find the ball, you're vulnerable. So they have to locate where the ball is, press the heck out of it, get in the face of the person trying to run the ball, and then change. You do have vulnerability in the second period. It's harder to run because of the long change, but you could revert back to a lines of 5 athletes if you wish.
And coach, just on that line, I had a couple questions here. I'm just going to throw at you if that's all right. I totally agree with the 2-3. And in fact, I've morphed it a couple times where I've had 2s be my transition players, and I've only had 2 of them. And that's really forcing them to run through traffic and get my 3s off, which were less skilled. So I've morphed it around. But I have one question is sometimes referees and other coaches will think this is OD. I've actually been called at a tournament for this. Any comments on that? It's clearly not OD because they're playing both ends, but I'm sure you've seen that come up at some point.
Yeah, it's you need 2 dads or parents, sorry, not necessarily dads. You need 2 parents on the door or certified assistant coaches that know how to do it. That's one challenge that goes with it. But I mean, I lost a provincial final, in midget because the other team was doing OD and they could pick up on that. I very rarely, I think that might be an experience maybe of the officials. I have never been called on, number 19 is not playing defense or number 22 is only playing power play. Like I haven't had that happen to me personally, but I can understand because the refs can't call it because there's already too much action going on, and it takes a knowledgeable person that's evaluating you or accusing you of it. But thank goodness there's video now that might be able to back it up. But yeah, everyone's looking for an advantage. Yep.
Oh, I had a question for you, but if you're continuing
No,
on the
go.
same thought, so you were just talking like a lot about footwork and players and Canadians being lazy. So do you teach or incorporate a lot of footwork work into this age division for your players, or is that something that you expect they're doing on the side? I think it's funny that you mentioned it. I was talking with our technical team here in Alberta about this not long ago, and they were talking about how basketball players tend to understand the footwork a little bit better than some other sport athletes. So it just kind of, is that something you build into your practices or conditioning you expect to do on the side, or just that they learn as they're doing, like you've been talking about?
I think they're way better athletes than the coaches brought up or trained. There's enough speed ladder things. I think I'd be very surprised that today's athletes aren't doing things outside of practice. Hard to do it in practice, but certainly something you can incorporate into your conditioning before practice or after practice on your training days. If I said lazy, it still means the same thing, but they're finding a way to conserve energy in a negative way that impacts the defense. It's kind of like a goalie that gets tired and immediately just drops to their knees. Though they could probably stand and stay there, but that's the first thing that goes. It's a tendency for goalies to drop more as their fatigue sets in. So I would not spend time in a practice setting, but I would set up scenarios where there's some great drills where they have to take the top side away. It does involve moving their feet, widening their base, being able to accept contact. Like they're standing too straight up on down, they're going to get knocked back or knocked over. So that's where I would use it. Just finishing up with the 3-2 here, and I got lots of content. So if I run out, that's totally fine. So please keep bringing me those questions, Jillian. The idea of how to play this or where we're going to play it, the golden rule for this system is stop the ball. So if you're a 3 and you're the last person back, Do not worry about playing the system, right? The idea is to stop the ball and we will change you later, because that's one of those things that, oh, I'm a 3, I've got to come off after we play offense because this is what I've got to do. And they leave the play, we're screaming, what do you do? Like, so the idea to stay with the play and change later is the easiest defensive thinking that they have to have. Stop the ball. We have to teach our goalies. I don't pretend to be a goalie. Their main function is to stop the ball, but we've got an easy thing to do, whether we do our breakout drills or not. Normally we throw the ball to the goalie. They have 2 hands on their stick. They pick up the ball, then they throw the outlet. I get them to sit in their net. I get them to look forward or look down. And as the coach, I say loose right, and the ball is rolling on the ground around their body. They got to see their feet. They've got to locate the ball. They got to trap it, pick it up, and try to get rid of it. Loose left, loose middle, find it. So they got to look down and find the ball. So getting them into those mentality where, I mean, we've got great examples of it with Christian Del Bianco and Demood getting 2 goals. I mean, these goalies are fantastic. Even Vino, for whatever he is now, 40+ guy, he threw a few lines. Like, I was there live in Buffalo last week. It was fantastic with his passing, bounce passes on the run. Like, it's a skill that our goalies need to have, and not just be, you know, these brick walls or these big bodies in the net. These are on the Instagram, and I'll give you the Instagram site here towards the end or the late slides. So this is like a go-to wonderful 4-on-3 drill from 3/4 court. Please go and look at it. It's great for tryouts. It's good for decision making. I talk you through on the video about why it's good and what it's for, and always trying to find the 2-on-1. It gives a little bit of physicality, and it's like 3/4 court only going in one direction. And then any type of buildup. So there's US field drills where it starts with a breakaway, and then it's a 2-on-1, and then that's a 3 versus 3-on-2, 4-on-3, 5-on-4, and then you shut it down. So any of those things that can incorporate running and fitness would be fantastic to use. One that was close to what Matt's doing, and I'll get this up on our Instagram pretty soon. At High Point University down in North Carolina is a program that used something very similar to what Matt talks about. So three black jerseys, 3 white jerseys, whether it's a junior club or not, your offense versus your defense, and it's 3-on-3. You want 2 and a 1, so 2 rights and 1 left, or 2 lefts, 1 right. And you basically roll the ball in. There's a loose ball battle. They pick it up and they play. As soon as one shot goes, they get 1 shot. The coach has the ball as like at the blue line. They roll in another ball, and then it's a new battle. And they go 3 times in a row. They love it. It builds competition. It allows you to have concepts of the loose ball, the battle, the 2-man side, the help side. When the ball's with an isolating side or on the one side, the 2 side, who's going to help and rotation. It's a fantastic one, and I'll try to get that up soon. Defensive drills. I talked about this. Both defenders, Matt's got it somewhere in his profile too, and that's where I stole it from. There's a cone in the middle. Both athletes, the defender and the offensive player, stand 1 foot on the cone. The coach blows the whistle or says go in some fashion. You throw the offensive ball. They've got offensive player of the ball. They got to go around their own cone. The defender's got to go around a defensive cone, and then they get out and press the ball. So it incorporates the getting low and setting up, 2 bodies side by side, offense, defense, and then pretend it's like the seal, like Matt talked about. Are they going around it? Are they meeting it on the other side? So it's a 1-on-1 out of the corner with the seal down. And then again, if they go too aggressive up top, they can't cheat around the low side. They can only go over top, but they can react to a spin move. They're taking away the top side, not allowing them to get over the top. Those would be great suggestions there. And then there we are. So yeah, 46 minutes. Any questions?
Almost got a sweat on going through that. Awesome, coach. Here's one. I'm glad it came up too. We've had some other sessions, and one of the things a theme has been is teaching the kids the right way off ball. For instance, we have this beautiful 24-foot line that can often cause a lot of problems because it becomes a free hit zone for coaches. And we've heard a lot of philosophies from different coaches on these seminars that off ball contact is really overrated. It should be something that should be minimized, including cross check position on your stick, right? Getting your hands free versus standing in the old cross check position that 20 years ago or 25 years ago we were teaching. What's your philosophy on that? What's your feeling on it?
I really like what the NLL's done, where you can't slash off ball, which I think is an easy fix. You're not supposed to slash, but I do see. If you've ever coached Pee Wee, you can be 6 feet tall and 175 or 165, or you can be 4'9" and 135, right? So you've got quite a range, or what used to be called Pee Wee. My apologies, at 13U. So I can think back to when I had a year of like a major minor concept. So I brought minor age kids to a major division. So they were playing against athletes that were much bigger, and people will pound and bully and pack you in like my bias was earlier about taking the NLL concepts and putting them in the box. But I wouldn't want to, like, wrong word, but I wouldn't want to soften it so much that they're able to cut through freely. We see in field lacrosse, it's doable because we can incorporate, you can only hit if your check has the ball. So I can see it working out. I feel there'd be tremendous amount of pressure on a shrinking population of skilled referees. It just adds that added element, like protecting the dotted or protecting the house or protecting the 24. I get it. I think it's like a safe area too, where like they can't pound you out or shouldn't be pounding you out by the boards, particularly if it's a big on a little or a real athletic kid locking off your best player. But I wouldn't want to change the game so much, but I do appreciate what the NLL did and what the WLA eventually got to about headshots and hits from behind. I think it would maybe be too much. Can't see the chat.
Oh yeah. No, that's great. I think the game is just becoming so skilled that the players or coaches that I coach against that are playing that, pound style are usually coaches that aren't catching up with the skill that's necessary. What about this was a question that came forward last week. or 2 weeks ago. Love to hear your opinion. One of the concepts is that the goalies are just getting better and better. There's more training for goalies. There's more goalies now in the game that are coaches, access to online, So has your approach in teaching the U13, which is where you're really starting to teach that team defense, has your approach changed to allowing high outside shots a little easier and not allowing them to get underneath at all, right? It used to be we try to force kids to kind of go around because they're not coming in on the crease. Has the goalies or the skill in the goalies changed your approach at all in defense and how you're coaching it at this age?
Yeah, I mean, your best offense is going to be transition. Any team gets back with 5 defenders. It makes it very hard. I think back to, when a team calls, like in the summer, calls for a floor wipe, and every time it's when they're on D and they can put 5 defenders out, and like just the idea that those 5 guys are ready to go. I don't think at U13 or U15, it looks, in most cases, they're not Dallas Elliotts or Christian Del Biancos. In many cases, they pick the biggest goalies, biggest kid. Thankfully, they can pass, but it is more of that blocker style, and it works fine in a 4x4. As soon as you get to 4-6 and then up to 4-9, certainly that the precision that the shooters can shoot and the variety of their releases, it does make a difference. But unfortunately, in a 4x4, as I said, like if it's a heavy set kid, they're in size 3s, their shoulders are covered. You're really just looking in that small little triangular space off their hips or glove side low as their vulnerability, particularly if you don't get a swing pass in or the ball's not moving. But today's athletes, even at the pro level, they might be a bigger body, but they can move and get down in the splits and get back up again. One thing I hate, which I don't know if I can get rid of, but I'm now thinking with a junior mentality of the use of throwing the ball behind the net. Like the Warriors are doing it, Buffalo does it, Albany does it. Like it's another thing for the goalie. I can't step out as far as I want to, and I have to stay back in my net. But are we allowed to score from behind the net in minor? I don't think we are, as long as we don't make contact with the goalie. But I think it does change my philosophy on how I try to go against it. They're sliding into a 1-3-1 on a power play. This is again how, as Matt talked about, like the lacrosse IQ of the coaches at the national team level or at the national level, everybody keeps getting better. And if you continue to watch it and live it, and my wife's not afraid to say it's the other girl or the other wife in my relationship, because I just love it so much. And obviously that hopefully that's come through in what it is, but it's a big part of my life. But you take it to like Kurt Milosky level, and he is a savant, right? With information and trying to figure out the next thing and splicing film, like you saw with Matt Brown and all the things that we're doing in advance. If you're not keeping up with the video and the use of video, you're falling behind.
Yeah, I love it. I worked with a very successful NCAA football coach. I just happened to get an opportunity, and I remember one meeting I had with him. He was going down to a USA volleyball conference, and he was going down there to work to watch how they do some of their footwork training. To bring it back for his defensive backs. Like, at that level, they're thinking so far out of the box. But last night was a good 6 hours of NLL lacrosse. So it was a great night. I'm sure you were sitting in front of your TV.
You brought up a good point though. Like I go to basketball practices all the time. My daughter played competitively. My wife was a coach. And just by watching some other sport, it triggers for me, hey, I could do this. I could do a breakaway drill that turns into a fast break drill the other way. You got to do some modifications, but like Allison McNeil, who's successful women's coach, was at SFU for a number of years. I watched the practice or drills that she was talking about, and immediately I turned it into something I could do in box, because there is lots of crossover, obviously, with box and basketball in particular.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. How's things for you? We'll give you a little minute here. Where's your? First of all, I guess I'm surprised you're on Instagram. That seems like a young thing for you, Coach Fridge, or maybe you got a TikTok channel too going on or something.
No, I'm not very good at it, and I count on my 20-something daughter. And my son always tells me the things I'm doing wrong on there. But I've been fortunate with the Canadian national team, being around pro practices and being exposed to levels of lacrosse that I see myself as an ambassador. I'm trying to make athletes better, coaches better. I still do coaching clinics for field. Anything that's fresh and new, I incorporate into it. my daytime is now going to flare up for the final 3 months of school, but so is junior lacrosse season. So I'll be working with Coquitlam Junior Adnax as an assistant coach after 5 years with the Bellies. And yeah, for anyone similar to me, like I was Northside Poco guy, wasn't really successful as an athlete until I was like 18, but I loved the game. Went to a very quiet university called Sonoma State in the MCLA Virtual Varsity League, and had success there over 4 years. And then had a little sniff in the pro league, which at the time they weren't flying athletes in, and then you kind of have to get on with life. So I'm very fortunate being in education for almost coming up on 25 years as a teacher and administrator. I'm around kids all day long, and I'm very fortunate. I just have too much silver in my life, and I want more gold. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Don't we all? What's your Instagram handle? I want to put it in the chat here, Fridge.
Yeah, it's here.
You got it. Handle, I think that's the young word that we use. Jillian, is that the right word? Handle.
So yeah, it's
Yes.
I didn't want to take over the Hill Academy stuff, so the Chill because of the Fridge, and then of course my sons told me it's too long. So anyway, I'm stuck with it. So Chill Lacrosse Consulting. I've got field and box drills on there, and it's just the easiest way to help others come up with drill ideas is to pass it along.
Love it. I appreciate it. Obviously, appreciate working with you in BC as much as we get to, and more in the future. Jillian, I think the 4 weeks of these sessions have been fantastic. I really want to thank you for jumping on last minute and letting me talk you into helping host. Any last words from you? We should thank Wendy Dobbin, who's been
Absolutely.
spectacular from Lacrosse Canada. I think she's really going to take Lacrosse Canada coaching to a new direction and a new height, which I'm excited about. And I really love the collaboration across Canada right now on these projects. I think it's far overdue. I think as a sport, we're in competition with soccer, hockey, basketball for kids, but more importantly, we're really in competition right now as a sport with gaming and sedentary lifestyles. And I think the more we can do as a group, the better. Thanks to everybody for coming on. Thanks again, Coach Brown and Coach Fridge for tonight. And Jillian, any last parting words? I'll give you a last word. Far away.
Just to everyone, keep your eyes open for these series happening again. We're not quite sure, or Lacrosse Canada is not quite sure when that will be, but there are plans to either have this potentially once a month or maybe another month-long series in the fall. So just stay tuned to Lacrosse Canada social media platforms, and hopefully we can get this up and going. I know we have a lot of facilitators that we can invite and that are excited to come, much like Daren, and spread the word. So yeah,
These will
that's
be up
about
on
it. Thank you.
YouTube too. These will be up on the
Yes.
Lacrosse Canada YouTube page. All right, everybody have a great box lacrosse season. Take care.
Take care. Thank you.